What I'm about to tell you now may surprise you, but it all began on a bright summer afternoon. The sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, casting warm patterns on the counter as I prepared lunch. My husband, Mark, had just left for a business trip, and the house felt unusually quiet. I found myself craving some form of excitement, a break from my usual routine of cooking, cleaning, and waiting for his return. Since then, there was a knock at the door. It was Ryan, my son-in-law, stopping by unexpectedly. With his charming smile and youthful energy, he always had a way of brightening my day. Ryan had been married to my daughter Lily for a few years, and while I adored him as part of the family, there was a spark in his eyes that sometimes made me feel a little flustered. "Hey, I hope I'm not interrupting anything," he said, stepping into the kitchen. The scent of fresh bread wafted through the air, and I gestured toward the table, inviting him to join me. Not at all. I was just making lunch. As we chatted and he helped me slice vegetables, the banter flowed easily between us. We reminisced about family gatherings, joked about my cooking skills, and shared stories that made us both laugh. Yet, there was an undercurrent of tension, a sense of something unsaid that lingered between us. Here we finished preparing lunch, Ryan hesitated, glancing toward the bathroom. "Can I ask you something a bit unusual?" he said, his voice lowering as if he were about to share a secret. My curiosity piqued, I raised an eyebrow. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about a small renovation project," he explained, his cheeks flushing slightly. "I need to install a shelf in the bathroom, but I'm not sure how to measure it properly. Would you mind helping me?" His request was unexpected, and a mix of surprise and intrigue washed over me. "What kind of help do you need?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light, though I felt my heart race at the thought of being alone with him in such an intimate space. Ryan's expression turned earnest. "I just thought it would be easier with the second set of eyes. The bathroom's a bit cramped, and I'd love your opinion on where to place it." A small part of me felt exhilarated by the idea of working together on something so personal. I hesitated for a moment, but the thrill of breaking away from my usual routine won out. "Okay, let's do it," I said, unable to suppress a smile. As we walked toward the bathroom, my mind swirled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. I told myself it was just a home improvement project, but the very act of stepping into that small space with Ryan felt loaded with unspoken possibilities. Once inside, I took in the familiar surroundings, the pastel tiles, the floral shower curtain, the way the light bounced off the mirrors. Ryan pointed to the wall where he envisioned the shelf. I stepped closer, assessing the area while trying to ignore the fluttering in my stomach. As I helped to measure, our arms brushed against each other, sending a jolt of electricity through me. "Do you think Mark would like this idea?" Ryan asked, his tone slightly teasing, but I sensed something deeper in his gaze. "Maybe," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "He tends to prefer things more traditional." Ryan chuckled softly, and our eyes met for a heartbeat longer than usual. A fleeting moment that felt heavy with meaning. "I just think you have such a great eye for design," he said, his voice dropping slightly. The compliment sent a warmth through me that I couldn't quite place. Was it the thrill of attention or something more? Just then I heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Panic surged through me. "Mark's home," I exclaimed, my heart racing. Ryan's eyes widened in realization, and we both stepped back, the moment dissipating like a wisp of smoke. As I rushed to gather the measuring tape and tools, the reality of the situation crashed over me. My heart raced not just from the sudden interruption, but from the charged atmosphere that had developed between Ryan and me. I forced a smile as Mark entered the house, carrying a briefcase and a cheerful demeanor that felt worlds apart from the moment we had just shared. "Hey, I'm back." Mark called out, his voice echoing through the kitchen. He set his things down and approached, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. What are you two up to? Oh, just discussing some bathroom ideas. Ryan replied, his tone expertly casual, though I could see the flicker of tension in his eyes. We quickly transitioned into small talk, but I couldn't shake the feeling of what had almost happened. As we sat down for dinner, I stole glances at Ryan, who seemed engaged in conversation with Mark, but occasionally met my eyes. Each look laden with unspoken words. Mark, blissfully unaware, shared stories from his trip, his laughter filling the room. Yet, I felt trapped in my own thoughts, caught between loyalty to my husband and a growing connection with Ryan. After dinner, as we cleared the table, Ryan lingered and I could feel the weight of his presence. He looked over at me, his expression serious. Can we talk for a minute? He asked, glancing toward the living room where Mark was busy sorting through his mail. Sure, I replied, my heart racing as I followed him into the adjacent room. The air was thick with anticipation as we stood facing each other. The distance between us charged with energy. I know we didn't mean for things to get weird. Ryan began, his voice low and earnest. But I can't shake the feeling that there's something more between us. Can you feel it too? His words struck me like a lightning bolt, igniting a whirlwind of emotions. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I felt something, yes. I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. But we have to be careful. This is complicated. I know. He said, stepping a little closer, his eyes searching mine. But I can't help but wonder if we're missing out on something amazing by ignoring it. I felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. The reality of our relationship loomed large. He was my son-in-law, and my loyalty to Mark was paramount. Yet the thrill of the moment was undeniable. What do you propose we do? I asked, my pulse quickening. Ryan paused, contemplating. Maybe we just take it one day at a time. We don't have to rush into anything. But I think we should acknowledge what's happening between us. The tension hung heavy in the air, and I felt a pull toward him. A magnetic force that was both thrilling and terrifying. Okay, I finally said, deciding to embrace the moment while still keeping a level head. But we need to be discreet. Of course. He agreed. A hint of relief washing over his face. We shared a moment of understanding. Our silent agreement settling around us like a delicate veil. As we stepped back into the kitchen, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Mark was still busy with his mail, completely oblivious to the emotions swirling just beneath the surface. I helped Ryan gather his things, and as he turned to leave, he looked back at me with a smile that held a promise. Let's keep this between us for now, I said, and he nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. See you soon, he said, his eyes lingering on me before he stepped out the door. In the quiet that followed his departure, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. The kitchen, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt heavy with the weight of what was to come. I knew our lives had shifted irreversibly, and I couldn't help but wonder how we would navigate the complexities of our new reality. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at home felt charged yet oddly familiar. Mark returned to his routine, sharing stories from his trip and ensuring everything was in its place. But I found myself preoccupied, caught between the warmth of my marriage and the thrill of the uncharted territory I had ventured into with Ryan. Every time the doorbell rang, my heart would leap, half expecting it to be him. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, but it came with a constant undertow of anxiety. I was acutely aware that our relationship was a delicate balance, and any misstep could lead to chaos. Ryan continued to visit frequently, often under the pretense of helping with household tasks. Each interaction was charged with an undercurrent of tension, or exchanges laced with double meanings and lingering glances. I could sense that he, too, was grappling with the complexity of our situation. One afternoon while I was tidying up the living room, Ryan arrived unexpectedly. I opened the door, and the moment our eyes met, I felt a rush of excitement mixed with apprehension. "Hey, I brought some cookies," he said, holding up a box with a cheeky grin. "Thought you could use a treat." "Come in," I replied, unable to suppress my smile. As he stepped inside, the familiar thrill shot through me. We chatted casually, but there was an intensity simmering beneath the surface. After a while, I suggested we take a break in the garden. "The weather's lovely. It'll be nice to get some fresh air," I said, leading him outside. The garden was in full bloom, vibrant flowers dancing in the gentle breeze. We settled on a bench, the warmth of the sun wrapping around us like a comforting blanket. "You've really made this place beautiful," Ryan remarked, glancing around. "It feels like a little oasis." "Thanks, I love spending time here," I said, feeling a sense of peace. But that peace was quickly disrupted by the unspoken tension between us. I looked at Ryan and he met my gaze, the moment stretching between us. "Can I be honest with you?" he asked, his tone serious. I nodded, my heart racing. I can't stop thinking about that day in the bathroom. It's like everything shifted, and now I see you differently. His words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of fear and longing. "I feel it too," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to be careful. If Mark ever found out, I know the risks." He interrupted gently, "But I can't shake this feeling. There's something about you that draws me in. It's not just about attraction, it's deeper than that." I took a deep breath, wrestling with my own emotions. "It's complicated, Ryan, or family. Only by marriage," he said, his voice steady yet filled with yearning, "but it doesn't change what we feel." In that moment, the air between us crackled with possibility. I could feel my resolve wavering, the boundaries blurring. "What do you want from this?" I asked, my voice trembling with uncertainty. "I want to explore this connection," he replied, his eyes locked on mine. "I want to see where it leads us, but only if you're open to it." I felt my heart race at the prospect, torn between fear and desire. "We need to be discreet," I reminded him, knowing the implications of our conversation. "Absolutely," he said, reaching for my hand. The simple touch sent a thrill coursing through me, igniting every nerve ending. "We can take it slow. Just let it unfold naturally." As we sat in the garden, our hands intertwined, I knew we were on the precipice of something life-changing. The warmth of the sun faded, but the fire between us only grew stronger, the weight of our decision hanging in the air like an unspoken promise. As the days turned into weeks, Ryan and I navigated our newfound connection with care. Each encounter was a delicate dance, filled with unspoken words and lingering glances. As we found ways to be together without raising suspicion, our secret moments became both exhilarating and exhausting. We met in the garden whenever we could, sharing thoughts and dreams, exploring the depths of our feelings without crossing boundaries. Each time I felt both the thrill of our connection and the weight of our circumstances. One evening, while Mark was engrossed in a late-night work call, Ryan and I shared a quiet moment on the porch. The air was thick with anticipation, and I turned to him, my heart pounding. "What if we got caught?" I whispered, half in jest, half in fear. Ryan's expression softened. "Then we face it together." "But I don't want to hide what we have. I want to see where this leads." I smiled, feeling a rush of hope. "Me too. But we need to be smart about it. As we leaned in, our lips brushed in a soft, tentative kiss. The world around us fading into the background. In that fleeting moment, I felt a sense of freedom and possibility. A glimpse of what our connection could become. But I also knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. We were walking a tightrope, balancing desire and loyalty. And as I pulled away, I understood that while our journey had just begun, the decisions we made would shape our lives in ways we couldn't yet imagine. In the quiet of that evening, I felt a sense of anticipation for what was to come. Knowing that whatever path we chose, it would be one we would navigate together.